Hello, 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 my friends, and welcome. I am a camera sign right now, it looks like. That'll have to fix itself soon. But I am here with you guys this week for Citizen Central Podcast. Welcome aboard. This is our second podcast where we go into the bigger topics in Star Citizen, and I usually want to bring on 4 people from around the community who have something to say about these big topics. This week, we have brought on, or rather this month, we've brought on 4 people who have hosted me in some way before, and I know have definitely something to say about exploration gameplay. So why don't we just jump straight into this while I continue to not be a little camera sign here. And I'm going to give you guys the opportunity to introduce yourself, but also tell everybody kind of how you got into Star Citizen and what your angle in exploration is, because all of you have a very diverse background in that. So LordSkippy, why don't you get us started off? I am not hearing LordSkippy. Is he muted?
You're muted, Skip.
Yeah,
He's muted.
got some muted. Yeah.
Start us off.
Discord. Give it Discord.
You're muted on Discord, Skip.
That's a good start. I mean, I guess I'm not even a camera, so.
Is it a role thing? For
There we go.
Or?
Skipster. Okay, how about Dimitrius? You go ahead and start us off, and I'll get Skippy on the mic.
Sure. King Dimitrius here from the org Cornerstone. You may know us from some of our tools. We host the Universal Item Finder. We also have the Planetary Survey, and we're an org that's been around for about three years now, and we're exploration focused, and we have probably, I would say, 300 people, 400 people maybe in our core group of players, and we're all very excited to play this game. So that's
Cool, yeah.
where I'm from.
I'm a big fan of Cornerstone. Know several of the guys going back, and always had a good time with you guys whenever I get involved. You had me on your own podcast for that show, and that was a good time. That was kind of not my introduction to Cornerstone, but definitely earlier on when I was first getting to meet the group. Thank you so much for joining us today, man.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, Eagle, my friend.
Yeah.
Where are you from?
Yeah, my friend. Buddy. Well, I'm Eagle from the Danish organization, EagleStellarAlliance, which at the moment is the largest Danish organization in Denmark, in Europe. So, and I started playing this game like 2.5, 3 years ago only. So I'm quite new compared to some of you guys. But I immediately found out once I started watching YouTube videos. I think actually it was one of you guys playing it on YouTube, and I was like, this is not real. This there's no game in the world that exists like this. And I was pretty sure that I would get my butt scammed once I bought the game, but I said, yeah, well, it's only 300 Danish kroners, so why not? $45, who cares? So I tried it, and I haven't actually seen the world since. So, the real world. So my organization is like only 9 months old, starting up from scratch, and today we're around 200 members, I think. An active org which has a purpose of doing everything. We don't have a specific way of what we do, but we do all from mining to cargo hauling to jump towns and fights and stuff like that. And then we have the cruise ship, the experience.
Yeah, and that's kind of, I mean, that's how we met each other. Your sort of touring group, and that's the angle that you come from. And I don't think a lot of people think of touring when they think of exploration, but there's a lot of pretty sights in Star Citizen.
There's much more in Star Citizen than you would imagine that would be, because imagine there is like 120 million kilometers from east to west and 96.65 million kilometers from north to south. So, and in between that, and we have to remember that this is real kilometers, human kilometers between that. I actually did a calculation that if I started a ship at Miguel 3, which is the farthest to the south, and started it with 30 meters per second and then just let it go up north, it will take 27 years before it actually would reach the southern part of the Aeron Halo belt. Yeah,
Yikes.
I'm an idiot with that part. So my grandkids probably would see that ship, the Flying Dutchman, flying through there.
Thank God for quantum.
So there is so much to see in this game that no one knows about. So
Yep.
sometimes not even CIG, I guess.
Fair. Thank you for joining me today, Eagle. RedMonster, you've been on here a couple times, but I'm still going to ask you to introduce yourself.
Yeah, so I'm RedMonsterSC. I focus on industrial gameplay, and at this point, that has been mining and salvage. But integral to those is the surveying and kind of exploration, trying to find signals and scanning and exploring different locations to figure out where your best chance at resources are going to be. And yeah, I'm excited about exploration gameplay. I feel like it has a lot of promise, and right now there's a few things they've thought about so far, but nothing concrete. So it's an exciting time to be discussing what kind of what our expectations are. I run an org. It's the Red Legion that we're obviously focused on the industrial side. We have a security force and specific divisions looking within the exploration and research portfolios when we get those types of gameplay online. So
I look forward to hearing more about the industrial side of things, because that's when I think of exploration, that's where mostly I'm thinking it's going to be useful. I want to sell some nice mining caches to the industrial orgs,
Exploration really has at its fundamental core discovery, and if you're going out and trying to discover something, like, it needs to be valuable, right? How do you turn what you find out in the verse into something that you can sell? And that's where you talk about your salvage and your mineral extraction and other aspects there.
Yeah. All right, let's loop on back around to LordSkippy. Think the man can talk now. Sorry about that.
Hello.
There he is.
There you are.
Yes. Hi. All right, LordSkippy here. I was a PC gamer, like when I was in high school. I played Doom and TIE Fighter. I played Wing Commander 3, actually. Barely remembered.
As well.
And then I stopped playing games for like almost 20 years. Then I got a gaming PC again and looked into space games, and I tried No Man's Sky, which was weird and comic-y and boring. I tried Kerbal, which was way too complicated for me. And then YouTube decided, hey, Star Citizen is for you. And I basically gave up, but YouTube was feeding me via the algorithm Star Citizen videos until I finally gave in and tried it. And then I saw this complete, vast sandbox that was unfinished. And that's how I really got into, okay, can we produce tools that make life in the verse easier, especially for exploration, how to find a location that I went to yesterday. And that's how we started with Verse Guide like 3 years ago. And we hope that someday it will become the Google Maps of Star Citizen, but we are way far away from that.
I really hope it does.
Actually.
Yeah, it's a really cool service, and whenever I use it, I'm always like, yeah, I know that guy. It's good stuff. Right.
Imagine one day if we get to call our own ships, just have verse guide written all over it.
All
Can't
of your
you do that
ships
already?
will be VG. We can only do a couple ships right now.
But you can do the salvage tool and like carve penises into.
Yes, absolutely. Penises. That's not going to get us demonetized.
Sorry.
Yeah, it's at least the top 5 quickest things I carve into a ship when I start salvaging. So
it's got to be. All right. So first, let's talk about what the heck is exploration, because everybody's kind of got a little bit of a different idea when it comes to it, and nobody can say what it is because nobody actually knows, right? CIG might not even have a full grasp of it, but we can talk about what they've said and what we know, and kind of what's been laid out. Now, I've got their old design document here open on the side for their ship roles, careers and roles, and it's from 2017. And they do have the different roles here. Gosh, it is terribly formatted, though. It's like basically broken on my screen. But they have the exploration roles here, and they list them out as Pathfinder, Expedition, Touring, and if the view wasn't broken, I might be able to see the next one. But they definitely take exploration and break it out into these different subsections. And I think that's really the crux of what we're going to get at today. And each of you are kind of in one of those subsections. So let's go back around the circle again, and let's just kind of open up a conversation about what is exploration, what are you kind of expecting, but also you can link in what do you already do in the game to experience it. Skippy, you can start us off since we had to skip you before.
Like, what are we expecting once the game is finished, or what are we hoping for to experience?
A little bit of both. I want to know what it is that you realistically think you could do in your own section of exploration gameplay, considering what it is that you like to do.
To be honest, I hope the game will not provide all tools necessary to fully do exploration. So there's a little bit left that you can do offline. And that for me, as a real nerd, is a big motivation factor. I want to see an unfinished mechanic in game and try to like fix it in my free time. For example, right now with the new changes for 323, altitude seems to be off. Just take that value offline, come up with a quick spreadsheet and fix it. So you have an advantage if you put in the extra work so you can find locations easier. That would be my hope. And I think it's realistic that the game will not completely being finished with all tools provided in game. That would be nice.
So you're hoping to find the holes?
I'm hoping to find the holes and fix them and then provide tools for the community. I don't want to keep this knowledge to myself. But for me, I love doing this angle. I would love if that would be intentional by CIG. For example, implement gravitational lensing, for example. In cosmology, if you look at a black hole, you see images from objects behind the black hole that are curved around the gravitational lens, and then you see these objects magnified, but at a different location than they actually are, like they appear to be shifted. If CIG would implement a mechanic like that, okay, if you fly near a jump point and direct your scanning array towards the jump point, then you see objects magnified that are behind the jump point, but you don't get precise location information anymore, and you don't get the precise distance information anymore. So if we could get data like that you have to put the legwork in offline to actually calculate the real information of distance and angle and whatnot, that would be absolutely amazing for a very tiny part of the entire community. So I don't think that would be realistic, but that would be my absolute dream game.
It is a niche experience, I think. But you're number crunching. Is that what got you kind of into Verse Guide?
Absolutely, yeah. So the first org I was part of was trying to map planets, do cartography, find a nice mountain, and then they had a very crude method of going back to that mountain with like taking pictures at different altitudes and look in this area. And a few friends of mine in that org and I thought there must be a better way. We have distances to OM markers, and let's try to take that into fundamental math and try trigonometry and try to find a more direct approach, math-based. And we worked on that for a couple of months, and it worked, and that was cool, and that's how Verse Guide was born. But I have to admit, we had way more fun doing Excel spreadsheets and JavaScript scripts than playing the actual game. Once the problem was solved, we were looking for the next problem to solve in Star Citizen, and not actually playing the game.
Sounds like you, man. Do you mind me asking what you do in real life, Skippy?
I'm a physicist working at aerospace engineering, and I have some background in gravitational wave cosmology, so yeah.
That explains it then, huh?
Sorry.
Kind of link the real life to the game.
The real life scientist. Dimitrius, I'd like to hear what your expectation, and especially like considering your org aspect, because you come from like a more of a group background when it comes to that.
Yeah, and I hope this doesn't I hope this doesn't lead into any surprise, but I'm the kind of person who tries not to look at the spreadsheets. I try not to look at the numbers that we've mined from the game files that are available to us. It's not that it takes away the fun for me. It's that right now I still, in its early access state, enjoy the things that I can find just around Stanton. Now, for exploration gameplay for me in the future, personally, I don't think I'm going to be able to satisfy what I see in my mind, in my imagination, for at least 5 to 10 years. I think Monster made a good point about discovery is the crux of exploration. I was thinking about this a little bit yesterday morning, and I separated the two. I think I think exploration would be something akin to me visiting Microtech for the first time, flying to the other side of the planet, and then finding an ice cave that I personally have never been to. That's real exciting for me. And I haven't seen pictures of it before. So the mystery and the wonder of seeing it for the first time is great. Sometimes I've visited websites or I've seen things explained or data mined before I've had the chance to see it in game. And for me, that's not like deterring, but it kind of takes away a little bit of the magic for me. I still will play this game, but that's what I'm in it for. I want to find, how do I put this easily and not ramble on too much? You know what I want to find? I want to find a Sketo's rock. I'm so happy for Sketo, by the way. That was a really cool thing. It's so important in the community. SIG recognized it, and didn't they put a placeholder there when they took it away or whatever? And it was just a way to like say that this is something important. Sketo must have felt good about that. I would like something like that for myself too, but I won't lie to you. I worry that there will come a point where there's nothing new for any of us to find because we've unlocked everything through these surveys and through this data mining that we've lost the analog feeling that we would be able to touch if we went out and saw it ourselves. Now, I'm not trying to say anything negative about data mining or anything that we do at our org or the data scientists in our adjacent orgs do, but for me personally, I want it to be a more natural experience, and I want it to be something where I am the first person to set foot here, not just for my own personal experience, but out of all the citizens up until now. So that's the difference between discovery and exploration for me. And when the game gives me that, that's when I think I'll be satisfied with my expectations there.
Would you be, because at first you described a situation in which you found a cave for the first time for yourself. It sounded like it wasn't explicitly the first time for anybody though, right?
Exactly. That's exploration for me.
If you only had that and you weren't getting that discovery aspect, being the first person ever to find that stuff, how would you feel about that?
I mean, I want to have it happen at least once. If I can ring that bell, be like, yes, I'm good, I'll be great. If I spend the rest of my game experience in Star Citizen and I am not the first person in an ice cave, I don't think it's going to break my heart. It's just that's, if I think about it and I don't let anything else get in the way, that's what my mind draws to when I think of exploration altogether, like what will satisfy me. I hope a lot of the players in our org have this vision where we want to point our ship in one direction and go as far as we can and see what we come across. And I know there's going to be vast empty spaces between all of the star systems. But what if we can find some things, or what if we can be the first to discover a new star system or a jump gate, or a unnatural wormhole? If we can do that easily sooner than later, that will be very exciting. If we can't, the fourth deck of my character is going to be useless for quite a while.
I feel like finding jump points is going to be not so much a thing, but I don't know, other things that like stellar anomalies of some sort that are equivalent to a jump. I guess, gosh, jump points are a big deal, so maybe not equivalent, but like big deal kind of stellar anomalies would be cool to find, and they're things that wouldn't be linked to gameplay too, so you don't have to deal with that aspect.
Yeah.
And to your point, how many of us have gone through and found Bennyhenge and the Christmas tree at Microtech? Like that's part of the exploration, is finding these interesting like those points of interest, those things that have been kind of handcrafted for us to go and explore, and just going through and saying, oh, like, hey, this is really cool. Like they've got Christmas trees and presents, and it's like this frozen.
But those are the Easter eggs, Red. Those are the Easter eggs that people compare to being explorers. We found Bennyhenge, we found the Christmas landscape and stuff, and people are like, well, if you ask them what they do, and they say, well, we go exploring, and then they use Verse Guide or they use all the YouTube videos saying fly 2 kilometers that way, turn left, do a roundabout and stuff, and then they find something. The real exploring is, like Dimitrius said, it's like going down to a surface somewhere, or being out in deep space, seeing a star fog that you didn't know was there, that you'd never seen before, or going down to a surface on the planet, sitting your foot out of the ship and knowing for a fact that you might possibly be the first one ever to set foot there, because people only go to the places they know. They do what they normally do. So the chances of anyone having been there before you, it's very, very small, actually.
I might add to that, Eagle. Go ahead, sorry.
I was just going to say, I think that there's a lot of potential for this with, the best part is being able to stumble upon something. You know, I like the idea of specifically getting information. Maybe like you got a little information from a bar or something. They tell you there's something at a coordinate. You go out and it's like a abandoned outpost, right? And you get some loot. That's cool. But also when you're just kind of out there, out in the middle of nowhere, and you just happen upon a cave, that is an amazing experience. And I think that they're headed in that direction with all these different points of interest that they're working on. Specifically, the caves, I think, are sort of in the background right now when they could be really useful.
For me, even finding the bar in the first place in Grim Hex would be exploration. Like I could never remember how to go back to the store that sells the crypto keys.
Minimap, hooray!
Exactly, minimap is taking exploration away, and I'm not sure I'm on board with that. Because you can't even switch it off, and it's like always there, the information. Like finding my way around a town and a city and not finding all the labels, like that was cool actually.
Yeah, it is a little bit of a bummer that you can't turn it off, or at least have specific helmets that have it. Because they've started to bring in things like the dynamic crosshair, and a couple other UI elements that are optional. You would think the minimap might be one.
Yeah.
Probably coming.
Or like collecting a minimap while I walk around.
Yeah.
And not knowing where I'm going as if I've not been there before, stuff like that.
But I think that was
about to talk about data.
Yeah, but wasn't that the purpose with the minimap? Buying it at kiosks and stuff like that?
Some of that, yeah. Yeah, that's going to be in, and to some extent, well, we will have to see how much. Eagle, same question for you. Dimitrius, were you done actually? I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's fine. I'll bring it up at another point.
No, if you had something else, please share it.
That was a hard no.
I just wanted to say that, like, you know, with just to add to what Skippy and what Monster is saying, like discovery and exploration, I keep thinking about the difference between those two things, and it gets me excited. Exploration it like satisfies the childlike part of my desire. I've never been here. This is exciting. I haven't seen this, but discovery is the adult part, I guess, to boldly go where no citizen has gone before. You know, that's I also think part of the difference as well. And I just wanted to mention that.
I feel that. Yeah, the discovery aspect is going to be really cool. It's hard to do because some people are joining for like 5-6 years after everybody else started. How do you, besides, I think, rotating resource nodes and stuff, which maybe RedMonster will start talking about more, that it's kind of hard to have new locations. I guess they could always just switch locations. I agree though. The discovery is it's a good feeling. Eagle, same question for you, my friend.
Yeah. All right. Well, I guess the exploration for me is two different things: touring and exploration. I don't know about pathfinding because it's like, it's a kind of exploration as well, but I guess once you do the original, in my world, original exploration, where you just go find whatever you find. The best part of exploration for me is taking my ship and go down to, for example, Microtech or Walla or whatever planet or moon it is, and then just sit it on cruise and just fly. And every time I see some kind of thing, I'm where I think, what is that? I just turn the ship and fly over there. And that's how I found all the places. Or we found, all the places for the experience route, the marks, because a lot of our point of views where we go with the cruise ship, it's not anything that's marked in Star Citizen anywhere. By the way, Skippy, we have to talk about that for first guide, because then when you find those really, really beautiful areas or places or locations where you're like, wow, this is really, really cool. I found one day at Walla, I found a cave that was like rounded like a wave with diamonds on top all the way down of it, and I couldn't find it anywhere on any maps or Verse Guide or anything anywhere else. There's possibly a lot of people have seen that wave rock thingy. So we just named it, and it became a landmark for us for one of the experience trips, because it was crazy just seeing that. So exploration comes first, and then touring comes afterwards. That was my point, actually. Mm-hmm. Because once you do the exploration, you go out and you just fly around and you find, because we went for the Easter eggs as well, the obvious ones that CIG put out there or that other people found in some way. And I was like, what else is out there? So just taking my ship or the ship and gathering up the crew from the org and just fly around, figure out what we see. Sometimes you just fly through a valley somewhere on Microtech in the biome, where you're like, wow, is this really existing? You know, I one of the guys in the org, Seven is his name. Him and I were out exploring on the grasslands on Microtech for base building because we already started
Getting
that.
started early, huh?
yeah. So yeah, I'm not gonna tell you where it is. No, anyways, so we were up in the mountains somewhere, and we were standing at a point where we had a view to a lake, and we had a view to a forest, and we had a view to a sunset, and it's like, wow, no one has been here before. So it actually became a point of interest for us. And thanks to Skippy and his guys, then we were able to. We found out how to do the OM navigation pointing thing, mapping it from the OM points and stuff like that.
There's
So
a. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
go on.
I was going to say there's a good point that you make there, that the exploration doesn't always have to quantify to something. Just finding a nice site, like finding a place where you can see multiple things, and it's nice that they're building so many things into the planetary tech, like rivers, caves, valleys, mountain stuff, because that kind of adds to the feeling of you land somewhere, and if there's a really freaking big mountain there, then it's kind of a special place. And when they start bringing in base building, like you said, that really starts to catapult the value of finding those things.
But I guess also when you look at the fact that this is quite a large game, I guess everybody would agree to that. And I don't know if this is true, but I have this feeling once I'm out exploring, I have this feeling that sometimes one of the CIG guys doing the art architecture and stuff like that just think, because a lot of things look the same. And then suddenly you find that specific point where you're like, this is not one of the ordinary rocks. This is not something that's usually there or how it looks normally. And I have a feeling that they're just putting in stuff like that all around the verse, where if the right person at the right time just passes by can see it actually at this, and yeah.
Some subtle things like that would be good. Yeah, I like that. All right, RedMonster.
We found a lot of it actually. So yeah. No, sorry, I'm done. I was
No,
just said we
fine.
found a lot of it actually.
That's pretty cool.
So,
I like the idea of little subtle, specific one-off things being left around. If they are doing that, that's cool. RedMonster, how about yourself? Exploration.
Yeah, obviously, like a big part of my focus has been the surveying and classifying where you're going to find minerals, and some of that included in salvage. But honestly, I feel like the way the verse has been rolled out to us, we get these fish bowls. We had the Crusader system, and they add a couple of more fish bowls around it, and then we start expanding that, and we have this like really large warehouse of space, but a handful of fish bowls scattered around it that are the actual content. I feel like there's not a lot within deep space to be explored right now, and that's where I want to be able to see that, because that takes it from 20 fish bowls in a warehouse to like a full Olympic-sized swimming pool that you can go out and explore anything, and there's going to be rich experiences that you can find there, right? But we need the tools to be able to have that and make that possible. And those things you can discover, whether it's a derelict ship, if it's somebody that's been on the float for a month and they need supplies, things like that.
Yeah.
You talked about, discovering jump points between systems. Those are going to be incredibly rare, but when it happens, like, I feel like it's going to be a monumental event. Now, one thing I was thinking about, like, because those are going to be so rare, they've talked about unstable jump points, and maybe these things become like tributaries into an established jump point route that smugglers could use to avoid the detection at a ring gate, at a wormhole gate, whatever. That you can have these alternate routes that, if you can map them, they will be incredibly valuable to people. But maybe they're going to be transient. They're going to be temporary, with a couple of weeks time that they can be used, but opens opportunity for emerging gameplay experiences, like when Jumptown happened, right? There was a battle over it, and if somebody goes out and discovers one of these kind of tributary jump points, that actually ties into something that's more established, that would be like, I'd be just as excited to find that as like a full blown jump gate potentially. So
Yeah, and if it's valuable, you could possibly change some economic stuff with a discovery like that. But it's hard to imagine how far that sort of thing goes, because they just haven't talked too much about this. I think the one part of exploration they've talked definitively about, and they do this thing where they kind of bring it up every once in a while, but for the most part, I think the only thing I've seen them talk definitively about was like years ago. I sent you guys that video earlier where they talk about deep space probing. This is the sort of side of exploration that hasn't, while they've talked about it, it's also the least known about, I think, in terms of when people bring exploration up. But of you guys who did watch that or remember that talk, what do you think of that concept of the deep space probing in Star Citizen?
I think it's natural. I think we should have something like that. Just like eventually we're going to have the ability to turn off a transponder in our ship, I'm sure. But that's part of the is astronomical. It's not the same as astronomy. It's part of the astronomy aspect of this game. Being able to stare off into a distance and then focus your your sensors in that way to see what's there, and then based on what you find, then maybe charting a trip there. Even if you only find Bennyhenge, actually that would be great. But or if you just find it like an empty rock or something, that's part of exploration for some people. It might be completely unexciting for someone who's like, how is that fun? You have no idea if anything is there, and that's the wonder and the mystery, I guess.
Yeah.
The payoff is totally personal, but stuff like this deep space scanning, I could see why they haven't talked about it at all. I wouldn't be surprised if we're not going to see it for a while till we have more star systems. But it will extend our existing ability to observe the region, at least around us, hopefully outside of the bounds of the star system we're in as well, which I think could lead to some interesting dynamic play as well.
Yeah.
Talk about those jump gates monsters or those.
I don't think we will ever find moons or planets with deep space probing that were
Right.
not announced by CIG. But like the jump points temporary, and like the temporary nature would make for continuous exploration gameplay as well. And then if they're valuable, then you can sell that information even. So that would be a motivation for people who are not doing it just for the nerd factor. So
yeah, that's a good point, Skippy. And you know how there are missions on, correct me if I'm wrong, I think it's Orison, like where they're like, I think it was something to do with Siege of Orison, where I just get a marker 150 kilometers away, and I have no idea what it is, but I fly in that direction or whatever. Maybe we'll have missions that are outside of the boundary of the star system, not by a major amount or a large limit, and we're not going to find giant planetoids, but maybe we find a small area of rocky asteroids or something. There's action there, and that's part of the dynamic mission. There's a way that you could work it in.
Yeah.
But what if you find something like a protoplanet, like not necessarily a moon or something with hundreds of kilometers of surface area, maybe something that's 4 kilometers in diameter, right? It still has an explorable surface area potentially on a very limited scale. But, those are the type of,
Could be fun. Could be fun, yeah.
Yeah,
definitely.
And that potentially ties into the larger scale mining with like the Orion, and maybe you're going to find old derelict space stations. Like if they took the old Port Olisar and just popped that out into the middle of deep space in a gas cloud somewhere and said, oh, like this was previously some point and it got, tossed out. You go salvage that, pull materials out. It would be fantastic. So.
yeah, but do you think that would be a temporary discovery and the planetoid vanishes and pops up somewhere else?
Perhaps the first to visit it will. I don't necessarily know if erase the location, but I don't know, achieve a mission where once they get out of that area, it despawns or whatever. I don't know. I think maybe that could somehow work. I know persistence is important.
Yeah, persistence.
But not.
Persistence is important, and they can put it there without a marker, right? And it could be something that you just have to know how to get to, right? Or maybe you sell that location because that's part of the data brokering and that cartography aspect of, is there a separate word for charting in space? Is it still just cartography? But
space cartography.
Yeah, astrocartography. But that's what's going to make data running, data brokering important, because you'll have these locations, and like I brought up with a tributary jump point, it might be a smaller, more difficult path to get into and kind of branch into that established path, but you can sell that to a smuggling org for a lot of money. You can sell it to anyone who does freight back and forth, anyone who needs to get people, like anyone who wants to travel and experience that route.
Yeah.
But a part of exploring is also taking your ship with your friends, and then just as you said, Monster, and you, Dimitrius, see what you find. You know, go out there and probing could be fun. You know, launching a probe in that direction that you're flying, seeing what's out there could be cool as well. Even though if it's in Stanton or Pyro or whatever system comes next, because a lot of people, I guess all of us, all 5 of us, knows pretty much everything there is to know in Stanton, I think. But imagine all those people coming into the game at the moment. None of them has a clue what's out there. And for them just launching a probe, flying after it in Quantum or whatever, and then getting all these things that they didn't know was there. So they have the possibility of actually go exploring. But another thing, go on.
Well, there's a huge system of derelict ships, derelict space stations, and asteroids that they're not utilizing at all in free space that would be little points of interest if you sent out a probe like they talk about. And for anybody who hasn't seen this or is wondering what we're talking about, this is essentially the third stage of exploration, or the first stage, I guess, where you don't know what anything is in a star system. You send out some probes. Those probes will triangulate signals, and as you get these signals, you can pull that data back and make a prediction of what it is, or you can wait longer, get closer, triangulate in. So we're talking about, essentially, you're not even flying a ship anywhere, right? You're just sitting in a system, watching a computer screen or something, and doing something to figure out what that signal is.
I feel like you,
similar to modern radio astronomy.
Yeah, I feel like you still would have the potential you would need to take your ship and be within a proximity of where those probes are. You're trying to calculate signal lag, signal delays, signal strength from those probes, because I don't think they're going to be, full capable. Like, you're not going to get data back from Pyro when you're in Stanton, right?
Yeah, absolutely. No, this is like a in the same system, same quadrant kind of thing. And I don't even know if they're going to have exploration mechanics that go between systems, because the jump points aren't even geographically based. Like you don't go through a jump gate and you're just suddenly on the other side right in front of that system. It could be way further along than other systems are. So I feel like there's not a reason to do intrasystem or intersystem exploration.
Interstellar space is vast. It's one of those things that just blows my mind when I try to think about it. So Star Citizen should be the same way if they're aiming for realism. It should be a bunch of nothing. You could go out there if you want, but you're wasting fuel. I could see that being just, that's how it's going to be for the first 10 years of this game.
Not only are you wasting fuel, but you're gonna need a pickup at some point.
Or they just need to fix the beds, I guess. Like a couple of years ago, we were able to multiple log out in the ship. Get it back. Because I guess flying around exploring like that, even if it's interstellar or just in a local solar system, I also think it's an adventure that you and your friends or your org members or whoever it is that's along with you has together, and it's a long-term adventure building instead of having that quick fix with a PvP fight or a mining experience, which is also cool. But it's
not as cool.
But they need to. But a part of the deal for exploration to work properly is they need to fix in some way that your crew and you can log out from the ship, go to bed, go to work, whatever in real life, come back, log into the ship, and everybody there, you can continue.
So if you had a mission, let's say an unidentified signal pops up on your radar, or you have a patrol route you go through and you catch something 200,000 kilometers off, it's just a faint thing, and it takes you, let's say, from the process of discovering it initially, getting the first glimpses, dispatching and analyzing that signal, and going to investigate in detail. If something like that took you like an hour and a half or 2 hours to complete, and there was some payoff at the end, right? Would that be an engaging gameplay experience for you?
Yeah, I think it would. Definitely. Definitely. Yeah.
Would you want something that would last longer than that? That would require like multi-session, multiple sessions to go and
Yeah.
explore,
Yeah.
or maybe
Yeah.
maybe you just chart it. It's something you can travel to with a 10-minute quantum travel time, but then like you have to go and explore several different like proto planets that are all kind of, this planet forming region that hasn't quite stabilized yet, and maybe it's got a bunch of valuable minerals because mining is cool.
Yeah.
Cool, right? That's
Sorry, I'm so
or
sorry.
maybe maybe it's a derelict space station that's been abandoned for decades, and you have all these pieces that when Maelstrom comes in, you can just start carving chunks out of that refined metal, carving chunks away, collecting them, hauling them back, and by the time you're done, like there's nothing left.
Oh shoot, I'm gonna be blocked from his website.
I'd like to add to that, if I may, because Monster, I love mining. I think it's a lot of fun. We have an active technical pillar at Cornerstone, and I'd like to relate something that happened recently. I think Lyria is the planet where it's all white and there's snowstorms. Is that right?
Yeah.
Am I right? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So we're in a mole. It's myself. It's Trinarius is flying. Glum and 2 Echo are on the other lasers, and we're looking for Quantanium. And I can't remember. It was within the last couple of months or so. We're on Lyria. We find a rock. It's like 55%. It's 20,000 mass or whatever. It's huge. We're real excited about it, but the wind starts kicking up, right? And then the storm starts, and the sun's going down, and it's getting dark, and it's hard to see. And Quantanium, so we had all 3 lasers on these rocks, and then the ship starts getting pushed over because the storm is picking up. So then Trinarius is angling against the wind to try to keep us in place, and we're angling even further, and it's getting real crazy. And we finally break the rocks, and we pick everything up, and we're out of there as the storm spins up. Tell me that's not exciting. I love mining. Yeah, I'd love to do that. That would be fun if that's what we experience when we get out to somewhere, like you're talking about.
Yeah, if you got into a cloud like the Coil, right, that's this dust cloud, it's electrically charged. If you're midway through breaking a rock and all of a sudden you get zapped and your ship systems go down, you got to engage the engineering gameplay, go replace some fuses, like, yeah.
But that's a cool thing of Star Citizen, that it's so like all the systems are so tightly integrated and it's so vast in mechanics that it's not only go in, explore, find the location, then that's it. But like you have to deal with all the consequences of the reality happening around you, which is nice.
That is, I think, the biggest thing about all of this is like there's not, when they introduce salvage, they're like, okay, you can salvage now. You go rip these ships apart. When they introduce mining, they're like, crack these rocks. But with exploration, it's like the weather systems were part of it. The derelict outposts were part of it. The rivers were part of it. The different atmospheres were part of it. The height maps, all this different stuff that's going to play into those experiences that build it all out and build the stuff that you're talking about, Dimitrius. It's like kind of just low-key building that profession until finally, I think what really officially launches it off, which is what we were really hoping would come in this update, was the ability to mark and share markers.
May I jump in here real quick? Speaking of, so most of you may know at least the Universal Item Finder. You interviewed me, Powski, about it, I think, last year. And to those who may know him or may not know him, his desire is to have the Universal Item Finder eventually retired. Because having all this information available to us now is nice because it's a stopgap measure. But when the game goes live, I believe this is where exploration and data running will tie in. Yeah. And Monster, like you were saying, if we get out to a place that's remote, within a system, or maybe just outside the bounds of it, whatever, and we do fill our ship with as much as the bounty that we can take, then we can also like triangulate that location from the outer areas of the star system, fly back, and then sell that information perhaps, or trade it for something. That's where data running comes into play, and also makes me a little. I kind of wonder how that's going to clash with all of the data science we're putting into the game as well. You know what I mean?
We are hoping, like everyone behind Worst Guide is hoping for the day where data mining is not possible anymore. So we want to be a navigation tool, like give me a starting point and an end point, and we tell you how to get there. But we don't want to have this database of all the hidden secrets in the verse. Maybe you can save your own data points in the future, but hopefully at some point it will just become impossible to data mine and everything will be spawned by the server directly. And when you were talking about interstellar and long distance scanning and whatnot, I think people can be thrown out of jump points when they're not following the path. I'm not sure if their 64 coordinate system will support that, but imagine you're stuck between two star systems and then you're there with your Carrack.
Oh,
But you are there. And then the server is like, oh, there's a player somewhere in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
Let's help them and spawn randomly a jump point 5 million kilometers away. And then you have to scan and try to narrow down.
Find it?
Oh,
I
I
like that.
found something. Oh, no, it was an asteroid. I found something in the other direction. Let's go 3 days in this direction. Oh, that's a jump gate. Where is it leading to? This would be so amazing.
It
It
would
is the
be about as
classic. Yeah, it's the classic emergency beacon, right?
yeah.
Somebody's out there needing help, but is it pirate bait? That creates some gameplay there. Now, to your, back to the concept of selling the location, right? A location is just one piece of what should define that. I feel like the exploration side, you need to go and you need to prepare a full data package on that. That includes what materials you're going to find out there. That talks about detailed scans, getting a profile of the signature so that it can be confirmed versus other libraries or at least kept in, and something that would take a long time to collect and prepare rather than just your XYZ coordinates.
I like that. It all takes effort, right? If it's a small set of rocks or whatever, or asteroids, just something simple within reason, then if we can just take everything and then for ourselves, I guess, and then sell it in on the gray market or whatever, or wherever we sell it, that's fine. But if there's additional things left, I'm sure there's going to be a threshold to like, is it worth it for us to put in the effort to like document all these worthless rocks? Or do we just give someone like, do we just say like, hey, OBO, here's a location of some rocks that we found out there. Some of them are mineable. It's yours for this much. Versus, hey, we found some Quantanium. It's going to cost you, but we'll tell you where it is. And not only that, but which ships can be around it and if there's gravity around it, and land on it.
Yeah.
Stuff like that.
The value of the data has to deal with how complete it is and how valuable the actual resource is there, right? If you have a low grade asteroid field, they're all mineable. Maybe you just survey and you say, out of 12 rocks surveyed, here's the details we had. We feel like it's this grade of asteroid field, where if you go in, you get Quantanium, you get maybe something that's even better than that down the line. Or if it's a bunch of just gemstones, if you have a full like Janelite asteroid that would be incredibly valuable, that could sell for a lot more, but you're going to need to bring different tools than if you were out there doing ore mining.
But also how recent that data is. Given that it's all temporary.
Yeah.
If the data is a week old, it's not worth anything anymore.
Well, and that opens up the opportunity to go and confirm findings from someone else. There could be that somebody finds a temporary jump point that ties into Stanton to Pyro. It's unmonitored, but they bring it back, and if you have a high enough rep with the Exploration Guild, they'll have a mission saying, hey, we got this data. We're not quite sure if it's legit or not. We need someone with high rep to go out to that location, do the scans, tell us yes or no. And then, potentially they talked about jump points being difficult to navigate. That could be another part of the exploration where maybe some of the top tier racers right now would need to go out and actually navigate through a very narrow, tight track to get there, right?
That'd be neat.
Yeah. And then I can autopilot my ship because I'm suck at piloting. Yes.
Suck at piloting. So up until now, we've been talking about flying exploration. What about planetary exploration? What do you guys feel about that?
That's the other part. I think that is one of the most exciting things. That's where I can say, I was there, man. I stepped on that planet for the first time. I didn't just see it. I touched it and I made a snowball and threw it to Bukowski, or something.
Some time ago, I actually saw on Pipeline, they have those small, data leaks thingy they put up. And there actually was a data leak where it said sleeping bag. I was like, yeah. I'm gonna go for that one, because imagine if someone is that nerded. I'm not saying me. It could be anyone else, but it could be me, going on a trekking tour. Going from Microtech up over the mountains. Again, Microtech from New Babbage up over the mountains in the snow, going towards Ghost Hollow, for example. I don't know, something like that. and then just bring your sleeping bag, log out in that one, and continue once
would
you
be
get
so
back in
cool,
the
yeah.
game.
Like Ark, yeah.
Yeah, that's. I think
exactly.
that's something people are missing in the bed conversation about bed logging
Yeah,
and
yeah.
whether it works or not.
Yeah.
Is that you could always have beds that just take up equipment spots or backpack spots or something like that. It's
Yeah,
a
one
trade-off.
backpack in my Pisces, and I would be happy.
If you have a cave that just continues going and going
Yeah.
and going, and you're 6 hours in, and you're like, dude, I don't want to lose this progress. Like, you pull out your bedroll, couple
Yeah.
glow
And
sticks, and you're good.
and your glow sticks just stopped working now, so now you're in the dark.
So
That's a long way out of there.
the idea of resources kind of respawning or changing over time and how that data can change in value based on that seems like a really powerful way for them to use exploration in places that wouldn't need people to do stuff that was like brand new, but rather just upgrade surveys and kind of update the information that people are getting. You think there could
Absolutely,
be good mission systems where people are just made to do that all the time and just turn that into some kind of database that gets put out for people to buy? Or do you think that should be more peer-to-peer?
I love the idea of it being both, I guess. I suppose there could be a marketplace for information. And then, I
Yeah,
don't know, it's a hard one.
I feel like there's an above board market. You sell it to the cartography group, right? And that's an in-game library of, locations. It's kind of that arcology. But then there is potentially a gray market that maybe it exists outside the game. It's things that are too hot or potentially protected secrets that it could be an org secret. It could be somebody saying, hey, like, I found a jump point. I'm somebody who would rather not be like well known here, but I can sell it to somebody on eBay for however much.
Monster,
I think it should be a player choice, either or. It should be a player choice if they want to either have one or the other, or both, if a combi is possible at all. So
I
what if
could
the
imagine CIG going the route of like storage capacity, similar to cargo. Like, if you want the map of this planet in high detail with all the biomes and resources and wildlife areas and whatnot, then you need a ship with a big enough data bank. And else you can't take the entire planet map worth it with you. And then if your org doesn't pay enough like cloud storage space, then you can't upload all the information from all the members and share it with your org. You have to select what you keep and what you delete and whatnot. That would be interesting if they go this route.
I wonder how they
Dimitrius had
balance
something.
that. Yeah, now that you said that, Skippy, it makes me wonder how they balance that with like the normal map that we're going to have, as we go different places. But what if in any of these scenarios, whether we're out in space or on a planet side, instead of finding something like, I don't know, minerals or a jump gate, what if Monster comes across a crashed Bengal that no one knows about?
yeah,
Suddenly,
that
that's
would
a
also be cool. Oh my
major,
god, that would be cool.
major salvage target, right? So here's the question. I would immediately fear for my life if I had that knowledge, like no one else do, right? So I would think to myself, do I even want to put this on the gray market? Or is that going to be just people within my org and the orgs that we form relationships with and trust? And that's the market that I want to be a part of, more so than the public market, I suppose. Not for any clandestine reasons, but because it feels like I can see where my contribution is going.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Or finding a stash that another org or whatever has put in a cave, marked it with their spot, but because you're out exploring, you find their stash and you're like, oh, all right.
Yeah, I found RedMonster. He's sleeping in a sleeping bag.
And
I found the sleeping bag.
we talk about with base building coming online, like you can buy land claims and have that protected, but haven't they talked about you being able to set up shop somewhere that's kind of off grid, unregistered?
Yeah.
You find these unregistered settlements, and then you say, okay, like whoever lives here, like I found your hideout, like we can work out a deal and I can forget all about this, or I can just go publish it for the small fee they'll pay me.
An old lady with a dog and a shotgun in it, like an Outback Texas thing.
Let's talk about the current map and what they've talked about in terms of that map. That kind of, I guess, was their most recent dive into, this could be exploration gameplay, which was the idea of downloading, saving, sharing maps. How do you feel about that as a concept? Maps being a commodity, you having to download them when you go places, or the idea of us filling in maps as we kind of move along?
should be as important as fuel for a ship, I believe.
Yeah.
I would hate
Agreed.
to I would hate to see that we can just map a planet once and then we know everything about it. There's got to be some deviation that happens after the fact. And I think the ability to visit those locations and freshen up or I'll give an example from Cornerstone. As of 3:20, the Universal Item Finder's database is accurate. After that, there were a lot of information and details that was brought back into the and was no longer exposed to us, right? So Mipowski very kindly asked members from Cornerstone and our friends to validate the information in the database themselves. And it created this wonderful standalone game loop where he would put out some requests and then people would go visit these locations and validate that that's what was actually there. And if they found a delta, if they found a change with what is supposed to be there, they would update that information. And that's exploration gameplay. It's a flavor of exploration gameplay as well, and map making. I think somehow that should be what we see in the future as well. At least I think that would be.
But I can't see that locations change in terms of, oh, there's a mountain now where there was no mountain before, or
Perhaps-
there's a
perhaps
new
not
room
that.
in the space station that wasn't there before. I think it will be mainly resources or like animal population that got hunted and now repopulated and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So it's more about what you
Like-
can find there that might be valuable.
Derelicts. I
Yes,
think they
yes.
could. I think they could pull off the like derelict space stations and derelict towns kind of thing. Not too much, because it would start to feel weird if you just randomly pop up on those where there weren't any before. But you could kind of move them around a little bit, maybe.
Yeah.
Well, and like,
yeah, well, I guess what. Oh, go on, Red.
I was gonna say, like, comments and stuff. Like, not everything has to be affixed and designed to be, you know, temporary and changing. You know, it's not gonna have the same location. But
I love the idea of comets because there's so many angles of how it separates exploration. It's like you could have a comet that swings through a system every maybe like twice a year, right? Once a year. And people who are on my streams are probably sick of hearing this because I go over it a lot. But like as the comet enters the system, you've got like this huge 40 million kilometer distance you've got to fly, right? The only people who are doing that are the hardcore explorers. So they're getting that first loot, they're getting to see the first stuff, they're getting the first images and everything. And as the comet continues to swing into the system, maybe like over the course of 2 weeks, more people who are more casual can kind of get in there and start to get more involved with it. And it would be really cool to see, like, if this comet had resources that were regenerating as it gets closer to certain space stations and planets, do those space stations and planets see their refineries start to get more activity? And does that start to bring more haulers in with more pirates? And suddenly we have dynamically changing environments in the system just because this one comet was flying in.
Suddenly we have jump comet.
Comets.
Suddenly we have jump comet, right? Everyone wants to get to it.
Yeah. If you mine it too much, it just alters its path, and then it will go direct. Oh, sorry. All right. Well, it sounds like a good idea. It sounds like exactly. It sounds like a cool idea.
Jump town on a comet.
Jump down on a comet.
Yeah,
That's what I call
love
jump
that.
comet. Yeah.
Now imagine
Jump
the
comet.
path of the comet is not known.
Yeah,
Oh, stop it, Skippy.
But that would be
Now I'm
amazing.
scared.
Now
yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah.
Murphy and Stoic Mako and I can like get
Right.
triangulation of position over time and then crawl in our offices and try to do the math for like a month.
And then you come running out. It's headed for Microtech.
The best gameplay. The best gameplay is the one that takes you into a off-site spreadsheet. That's exactly what I want.
Next
the
time they
entire
wanna remove
plot
a
of
planet
Don't Look
or-
Up right there.
Yeah.
Next time they want to remove a planet or a space station or anything, they just put it in the comet path and just all right.
That's how you get an org to behave. Behave
where
when this
Port
comet's coming for you.
went.
So,
All right, nerds.
what do you guys think? Do you think that, let's say the game does, oh boy, the game hits 1.0 with 5 systems, right? Or even before that, let's say that we've only got 2 or 3 systems for the next couple of years. Do you think that there would be enough content in those systems for exploration to flourish as a profession and not be limited?
It depends on and it depends of the next systems, I guess. With Stanson at the moment, once you've been in the Stanson system for a couple of years, then you quite as well know everything there is to know, I guess. But even then, still new things pops up in my view when I'm out flying. So I think with 2 or 3 systems more, 2 systems, Pyro and what's the next one, Nix or
Next.
yeah, then you'll probably have way more that because you have to remember, Tomato, that Pyro is that big. It's huge, It's a lot of planets, a lot of moons. I think we could spend the best part of the next 3 years exploring that part and still not have found everything for exploring. So yeah, I definitely think that 1.0, if it offers 2, 3 plus systems, it would be. Well, I wouldn't say it's enough because it's never enough for me. It should be 100 systems already, or what their goal is. But it's definitely enough to start exploring as a profession. Definitely.
What else? What else?
Offshoring.
You other guys, what are you thinking?
I think with Pyro being dangerous, with like lawless and solar flares and whatnot, exploration in Pyro will be extremely hard. So the information you find if they have a mapping system and you can like trade data as a commodity, this will be more valuable. So if someone finds something and then makes it back through the jump gate and rescues the data into the safe haven of Stanton, selling that will be valuable. Information will be hard to come by, it will be rare. So only adding Pyro would add for so much exploration gameplay once the systems are in place that I think even these 2 systems would be enough.
And Pyro being an unclaimed system, I wonder if they're going to do anything where if the UEE isn't involved or an official lawful affiliate of some sort isn't involved in a system, that there is some level of fog of war. I don't think it's the right term for that, but like some level of you don't get to know all the locations here, because like why would you know all the space stations in Pyro as just like showing up? Like why would Google Maps have all of the information in a place that doesn't allow information to move?
And it doesn't, yeah.
Why not every faction wants to be on grid, right, above board. There are going to need to be off-grid locations, those that are, transponders off. You won't have a quantum travel marker to it. You have to have that like bookmarked and saved in your own, in your own library. But maybe there's a risk of getting, captured and somebody scanning that data off, off of your ship. But yeah, I think if we get 2 systems or 5 systems, not knowing anything about what their plans for exploration are besides that long range scanning, it's possible. We've seen them with missions generate, derelict crash sites and stuff like that. It would be thin, right? Kind of an inch deep but a mile wide. That type of thing. I'd like to see more depth to it to be more engaging. But honestly, if we have 5 systems, that's a lot of places I can go break rocks at. So.
Yeah. And
I like that.
They've got so many things they've been working on, like so many points of interest that they've been developing now. The CitizenCon, they showed us like derelict cities, and then they showed us actual towns, like in between outposts and cities. They're showing us all kinds of derelict spaceships, and my favorite, which I've been waiting for a long time, was the derelict space stations. Those looked amazing in terms of atmosphere and what they could do with that, finding things and encounters with NPCs or aliens of some sort.
And eventually, derelict distribution all the way down. That'll be exciting too. Easier to get to, maybe.
Yep.
Closer.
And then they talk about how that'll lead into cave systems.
Yeah, that's right. I forgot those connect in the lower levels. That'll be cool. To answer your question, when 1.0 comes out, I expect 3-4 systems, sure. Squadron 42 will be out, and we will be into the next phase of Star Citizen's, voyage, so to speak. High goal, discovery. I would like to be able to be the first person to find something, not just be the first time I've set foot there, but say, hey, found it. This one is Dimmy's coordinate or whatever. Low goal, how about this for exploration in 1.0? The ability to continue an exploration through one session. Bedlogging with my buddies, jumping back in on the next session, continuing through Pyro, even if we don't see anything we haven't seen. I think that'll satisfy exploration for me until the distant definition that we want to see realized will arrive for us, which is like, you don't even have to stay in this region. There's another region of 5 or 6 star systems out there that you can go to. I think that would really define my high goal. And yeah, I guess.
I feel that. And Skippy, what about you?
I want to measure angles and distances. But yeah, some of the things we dreamed about, like in this last hour, it sounds cool. I'm not sure if it would keep my interest indefinitely, but if CIG can pull that off, that would be nice. Yeah.
Yeah, hopefully. Guess not really the last question I had for you, but this is sort of one that I think links back a lot into some of the things we've been talking about. We've skipped around it a little bit, and it definitely comes up with resources. But the biggest question, how does this become a profession? Because right now you can explore. You can go out and find something and tell people where it is, and they can go get it. And that's technically you've explored and found and shown. But how do you get paid to explore?
Data.
Well, I guess you could start with like we did. We created the experience touring ship, and we used the 890 jump, called it the experience, got the name on the side and everything, put it together, and then create touring sessions with what you found, taking money for showing people the things you found because it's actually worth something.
How much were people paying for a ticket?
In the experience, they pay 400,000 USCs, which for some would be a lot, but it's a luxury tour, so it should be. Actually, some of our guests are saying, you could take a lot more than that if you wanted to, because it's really worth it. But also because if you do a touring, then you can do it. You can do a touring in many ways. You can take in a 600i or 400i or one of the other origin ships, and then just fly out and show a couple of guests or a lot of guests what you found. Take a Carrick and stuff like that. But you can also go all the way, which is basically what we did, I think. So we created a travel agency around Stellar Eagle Alliance. We are Stellar Eagle Alliance as an org, but we created this add-on with a travel agency where people would go into the website, booking a ticket, seeing the website where like a normal cruise ship site, I guess. Seeing the website, getting inspired, and then in the very bottom of it, booking a ticket. And once they did that, they got in contact with the booking team that wrote back and forth with them and getting them their boarding card information, how to, what not to wear, and how to, how they're expected to behave, and all that kind of stuff on board the ship. And we had a security section that actually did a lot of security check up on all the guests. So we actually had to block out some guests and say, dude, you are affiliated with piracy, so we're not going to go that way with you. I'm sorry, but here's your money back, of course, obviously. So touring for me is a big part of giving the guest the total experience of that exploring that I did.
Yeah,
so
I think
wrapping it in. Go on.
Sorry, go ahead.
I was just saying, wrapping it in, in a kind of gift wrapping box, saying this is what I found. Putting all these spices into the box, like music on board the ship, as you heard, or voice announcement, or whatever we did on the experience. Having a crew that would cater the guests, a waiter that has all the funny stories about the exploring trips we were on, security officer and his crew that are like, please move on, you can't go that way, and so on. That is a part of the total experience that this game actually offers, in exploring wise as well, because we took all our exploring trips and put them in that bag and wrapped it with, a little bow and stuff like that. So making it look good.
I think there's something to be said about doing tours that isn't as realized right now because it's so easy to survive at all times. But when they start releasing systems that are actually dangerous to go to, that you might lose some significant process time, money, or just general ship value going on your own, it actually might start becoming valuable for people to pay other folks to like either escort or ferry them or give a tour of them out in these new systems. Because like look at what CIG's art and stuff looks like right now with Pyro. Imagine when there's 7 or 8 star systems past this, and they're starting to work more on things like nebula and very specific things that you can go and look at in space. Not everybody's going to want to fly themselves out there, and paying for passenger transport is
that's right.
It's a segment of touring.
It's
And
a
it's
service you're offering, right? It's the results of the efforts of your exploration. You're turning it around and you're offering it to your guests and to your customers. and like you said, Tomato, if it is in a place where there's the threat of danger from whatever direction, you guys can also say, we can also very highly guarantee, close as you can, a safe journey to these nebulae, which, or other areas which a person is willing to pay for instead of going out there by themselves and risking their neck. So I suddenly see the great value in what you're trying to do, Eagle.
There's
Thank you.
also
I wonder if this will become a mechanic in game, an official mechanic. Like I put the tickets on Mobiglass and someone buys a ticket. And that's how the payment works.
That could be so much fun. That could be so much fun, actually. Yeah.
But
passenger
I think the
transport.
community.
But
Yeah.
I guess we went far and beyond in our objective. We created actual boarding cards, digitalized boarding cards that we send off to the guests together with the final boarding information and stuff like that.
Yeah, there will be different levels, but they've talked about the fact that not even just players, you'll be able to have NPCs paying you for trips places.
Yeah.
That on its own, that's literally a mission system. It's a contract system.
Yeah.
But this will be, okay, go from point A to point B, and the server needs to track that the mission was completed and whatnot.
Right.
I think the cruise, the more personal cruises with all the extras and the personal experience is something that won't be in a game system. But that's why I love this community so much. They find ways to make it a reality and to use the game systems to make it work and have the payment system like through direct payment without any dedicated game system supporting that. But on the other hand, CIG will cater to solo players who want to do exploration. So I'm pretty sure there will be a mission that tells me, okay, go to this planet, to this location, do a scan for 2 hours, and then come back with the data, and then you're getting paid.
Definitely.
So that will be a profession. It's like a box mission, basically. Get the data and bring it back. But the really interesting stuff will be the more personalized, very individual experiences.
You could also use data mining for touring, for example. If you heard about something from somewhere in a bar, I don't know who of you said that before, but sending out a ship for doing the data mining in that direction for a new point of view, a new stop on that tour that you're using with your cruise ship, or whatever you are doing touring with, that could, because then you start suddenly to combine the different things. And you're in control if you tour. If you explore, you're not. Well, you're still in control, but then you are possibly surrounded by your friends and not strangers. If you do touring, and you're the one that caters that part of the game, then you're in control of what's going to happen. For example, one of our stops is somewhere in the Aeron Halo build, and for a lot of guests that we had on board the ship, they had never seen it before. Some of them didn't even know it existed, and we flew through it like for 10 minutes or so, and we set up a mining ship. Well, we actually did, Red. We set up a mining ship. Sorry, I love some mine. We have to talk about that someday. Sorry. We set up a mining ship and did a lot of stuff. We had a guy going out to with his prospector and maybe a mole or something, and we showed the passengers that. And the voiceover in the ship, we have this Stellar, she's called. It's a tourist information guide that in the 890 jump, because everything was in game speak. So in the 890 jump, we had a character that just provided the sound for the ship. Telling about the Aeron Halo build, and this is what you get. Imagine us being able to data mine for points of views like that, creating our own stories within the game. That's really exploring for me.
But no official game system will support that. Like there will not be a mission that tells you, okay, you have to put up a mole, and whatnot.
And I think we've covered touring pretty well. There are some really other good ways to make money through exploration.
Yeah.
Red, I think I really want to hear what you have to say on this topic, because finding resources is probably the biggest thing people could do.
I mean, we've been getting people paid for exploration for 3 years, and that's through our group mining finder's fees, right? We have people that come in and join that they don't have a mining ship. What they do is they fly around. They are scanning for either asteroids in the belt, or they're scanning surface deposits for good rocks. We teach them about what to look for, what minerals are valuable, and over the last few years, it had gone from just kind of an informal saying, "Hey, I found this 28% quantanium rock. It's this mess. I'm going to sit at this rock and wait for somebody to come pick it up." They get paid a 15% finder's fee for that rock. Somebody comes out, they mine it, they take it back to the refinery, and they figure out right then how much they owe that person, and either pay them right away or pay them when the order gets placed. Now, there's systems like Rocks that we've moved over to that are all community developed, but it's the same type of thing. You have crew members, you have surveying and finder's fees. That's how people who aren't necessarily good at mining but like flying around and doing the scanning aspect, they can go get paid for that, right?
Yeah.
Could you see the system being automated as an official game mechanic? Like, people are scanning, they sell their map to the space station, and the space station automatically determines the value of that.
I think there's a problem that the rocks themselves are not permanent outside of like a specific server session, right? And even then, they do sometimes regenerate in different locations. I know a few patches ago there was an option like you could go find a really nice deposit, and as long as you got back onto like the same server, you could come find that same rock in that exact same location again and mine it, 30 minutes, an hour later, however long it took for that to respawn. I do feel like the way that the minerals, like the harvestables, are being populated, it's just kind of a layer on top of the map that changes dynamically. So it would be a little bit hard without some true persistence there. But again, with true persistence, new materials would have to be generated. Otherwise, you could go mine out the entire surface area, right?
I want to
That wouldn't be
ask.
fair.
I want to ask how this kind of system would work in terms of acquiring the mission. We talked about having sort of exploration missions that were hosted on some kind of a system you could go and look for, and I think that could be both. You could find exploration missions, you could also find stuff people have found and posted themselves. We've also talked about kind of sending those locations to each other, but for this specific system, do you think that it would be better if these missions were, like, let's say the game was assigning you a contract to go out and find a rock, a specific kind of rock, and then return the data? Or would it be better for players to be able to just, and I guess you could do both, but when they're out and about and they do find a rock, they take it back to the station and can sell that data right there, and then there's kind of just this store that miners can use to find local mining data or something?
I like that
I think
idea.
that will be it if CIG gets that far.
So then
I don't believe that the actual contracts that you can get in your missions it will just be a mission then.
Well,
It's
it
the
could
same as
be.
collecting the delivery package or something.
There
Yeah.
could be a kiosk that's just like, these are the local missions around this area based off of data that players have brought back. Here's some information. You want to buy it? There's like a list of them. You can buy it, and then go visit that way. Is that what you're talking about? Is that what I am understanding?
kind of, yeah. And it's more so I'm interested in how the payment would work. If you were somebody who found something and then turned it into a database and then just left it, right? What if nobody buys that for 2 weeks? In 2 weeks, would you
Will
just
it inflate?
randomly see those UEC pop into your account? Or like, does the station pay you?
Like, basically, do you set the price and hope someone buys it for that price, and then the value diminishes over time because the information is now outdated?
Yeah.
Or
Claim
do
that
you hand it
times
into
out.
the station, and the station automatically determines
Just
the value,
gives you
pays you?
something. Yeah.
Yeah.
And once it reaches 0, it just disappears or something like that. Could be fun to combine that with the bars in the space station. A small a small computer in the bar where you actually put in that stuff on the black market.
Weird place for a computer.
We already kind of
Oh,
have this system with the salvage missions, though, right? there are derelict salvage,
Yeah, exactly.
like derelict vehicles that we pay a fee for. We get the location and we're sent out, right?
Mm.
These are things that are generated dynamically. You could have something like that at the mining station, at the refinery, and have a terminal and say, hey, here's some survey data. We've got some rocks. This kind of ties into what I think is missing the most in mining gameplay right now is that mission, right? If I go in and I say, how do I start mining in Star Citizen? I don't know. Like, there's nothing in game that tells you how to do that, right? You got to go online to look for guides. You don't have a mission that says, hey, we're going to start you off with quartz here and just go break some rocks, collect 50 SCU of quartz, bring it back to the station, and you're going to gain rep and you're going to get the next mission tier, right?
We'll make it even more interesting. Have a mission giver and a mission like information broker buyer in a bar
Yeah.
where you can go to talk to them, figure
the
out if they're
barter.
shady or trustworthy. That would be so
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah,
Or
just the
an
mining
NPC.
guild saying, hey, these are safe locations with consistent minerals, the risk of the location, the value of what's there, maybe the distance from where you're at, all playing into how much you're going to have to pay as a buy-in fee to gain that information. And then on the flip side, if you go and scan an asteroid cluster, you record it and you take off, like you prepare that data package, sell that to the terminal, and you'll be able to get, paid off of that data.
That would actually
From
be
the
pretty
NPC,
cool.
from the system.
That'd be pretty cool if when you did turn that into the terminal, it auto-generated a mining mission.
Yes.
So then a
that
miner
would be
could
Oh,
get a
that would be really
mission,
cool.
and like
definitely.
almost using the mission-based content to continue making more for other players. I always think about that with like the SRV and the tow missions too. But
They're trying to implement it for items you buy. Like you can sell to the terminal, and once you sold something, it's available at the terminal to purchase. And that could be very similar with like you
Could
sell
also
the
be cool,
information
yeah.
to the system, and suddenly the mission is available for
yeah,
purchase.
yeah,
And what they're doing right now with the new star map also makes it much more current to do stuff like that, because you're able to put those once it works basically on the new star map, where you can actually you can mark up a rock somewhere, quantanium stone, and if you wanted to go in and sell that mark somewhere to someone, saying this is for you, pay or whatever. And could be cool if you create a mission as well to that quantanium stone, so
yeah.
people had to pay in that way to be able to go in and mine that stone.
Yeah. Dimitrius, coming from an exploration focused kind of group scenario, I wonder if you guys have had conversations or initiatives, at least that you could talk about with us, that are focused on supporting the org. Like obviously as an org, you guys have a lot more of a financial responsibility to members and just kind of maintaining above a green outflow of money. Is there anything that we haven't talked about here that you guys have discussed in terms of making sure that you can support yourselves as explorers?
We've been cautious about making any commitments to anything just yet, but I think the idea is we're trying not to have Cornerstone, the org itself, be like a central bank that players that join us have any like you can contribute to the org for the better of the org, but we're doing the best to say that any proceeds that we make or anything that we do, we share amongst ourselves. And that the thing is, we have so many altruistic people that come to our community. They want to do that anyway. We've never really had a problem with that. Like when you go out, talk about mining, Monster, you were saying there's like no good tutorial. There's no like beginner area for the miners where you can go there, be safe, go do something, not blow yourself up by finding the first spicy rock and not knowing. You got to be careful, right? But then
Not even an arena commander mode.
oh, good
Right?
point. Yeah,
Yeah,
you're right. Yeah.
it's not
But
okay.
in our case, we have such willing people to teach you how to mine. Like we have a mole at Cornerstone called Maggie, and she's known as the training mole. And her owner will take anybody out as long as they really focus and want to learn what they're doing, and he'll teach them how to mine. We're kind of lucky because we have someone like that. But at the end of that session and many other sessions similar in salvage or trading, many of the times the money is just divvied up and given to everybody because there's so much of it because we're so productive at that time. I honestly don't think we're going to have a shortfall. We're probably not going to be in the red at any point in time from an org.
Oh wait, wait until all the money sinks are in. At some point, exploration and like touring, it needs to be profitable, else you can't keep up with the operations anymore.
I know, but I feel like the product. I feel like the
I've got a pioneer
productivity.
that's good. We're gonna keep
Sorry,
talking over.
I just wanted to say, the productivity is gonna like the consequences of productivity are gonna always be greater than the take. I don't know. I feel like we won't have a cash flow problem. Sorry, Monster. Go
Yeah.
ahead.
I have a pioneer that's going to siphon as many resources as I can throw at it. You know, I feel like we're going to just keep building and building and building, and doing what we can to, you know, I'm excited about you know, the base building aspect and what we're going to be able to do as an org, and what those static buildings are going to look like, and you know, throw on some new guys onto, you know, onto protection and defense there, and you know, whatever else they're able to get put into a static ground-based operation. So
you're building a city, not a base.
yeah,
Basically.
Base building will be an
All
interesting part of it all, yeah. And
Oh,
they've
definitely.
talked about how base building, you can, you know, see the ground resources that you'd be pulling from, essentially like something like Satisfactory, where you want to have your mining drill in a certain spot to get the best efficiency. We'll have that in Star Citizen, so even more of this exploration will be probably about getting those ground surveys.
That's something I could see myself being interested, like for much, much longer time than the exploration gameplay in-game. One of the first questions was how we got into Star Citizen, and 2 months after I bought my $45 starter pack, I wired $1,000 to a random dude in Japan to get an LTI, and so I can get do base building as well. So this was my like early on my dream in Star Citizen, building bases and building a cabin in the woods and retire there, something like that. I think that's a really cool prospect of using like surveyed data, turn it into money by base building SimCity style. That's cool.
Yeah. All right, you guys, any other little things you think you could do to scrap a little bit more money out of exploration?
Well, I guess it's all well, exploration is also about just going out, seeing what is there. You don't have, in my opinion, it's not, well, it's not necessary to earn money for every act what you do in Star Citizen, but exploration could also just in question marks again, just be going to an outpost somewhere, looting stuff like that, seeing what's around. So
Yeah.
it's go around to bring it back to the station, or put it in one of the new big containers and sell the whole container up in the cargo area. That's also exploration with a smaller profit though, but a profit still, you know.
Let me
It's
ask you guys a question.
definitely, it can be your free time kind of thing too.
Yeah,
I think
exactly.
what people are interested in though is knowing that they can do this full time and still be able to afford doing other stuff they want to do and upgrading their ships and stuff. Because at the end of the day, every profession has to be able to support itself, right? Or else it's just not going to work in this game.
Will there be a concept of urban exploration? Will we eventually be able to chart all the crazy alleys in the industrial out districts in Hurston or at Lorville? Will that be a part of it too, I wonder?
You can do it already, actually.
There are a
This will
couple
be
of
so hard.
cities in the lore that I think are based around that. Armitage, I think, is a specific one that was, I think, destroyed by the Vandal, but it's still commonly known to be visited by explorers and people who are very risky, we'll say. Actually, Armco, Morphologist Org, is based around the idea of making like a pilgrimage back to Armitage, because it's such a significant part of the lore, and the cities there are supposed to be places you can go and see them all blown up and burned. So I think it could be something they work in, especially with building interiors. Still something we don't know how far they're going to go with.
Well, I think you're actually already able to do that in Lorville, in a somewhat smaller scale though. But take out a car from gate 1 and then set a course towards gate number 4, for example. Going out from, I don't know if you don't know the area around gate 1, but there's a city wall with an opening in that you can go outside the city, and just follow the wall all down to the sea behind Lowell and go to the right into the industrial area. It's amazing. You guys should go see that.
I've never done that. I've
That's
been playing this game for 10 years. I've never thought
It's
to
your
do that. That's a
exploration.
great idea.
There you go.
Yeah, there's
Yeah.
exploration. You know, that's an
But it
awesome
won't
idea.
you.
We should do
Won't-
that, Dimitri. We should do that.
Oh,
And-
I'll be paid in experience.
Exactly, but like if you're thinking about how do you support yourself later on, I think the city exploration is an interesting thought. Scanning a city and seeing, oh, we have these building interiors. There seems to be, I don't know, a vault you can go and crack and steal the money, stuff like that. Maybe even, but it's hard with the current tech Star Citizen CIG implemented. Even if you have the the Orson platform missions, when you go from one elevator 2 stories up, you're not 2 stories up, you're 2 stories up and 500 kilometers sideways, because I needed to separate the object containers. So it will be really hard to have a densely populated city with all the building interiors, like for every single floor and stuff.
Yeah. Can't get too much into that.
What
All right,
about
guys.
the concept of, I got one last joke.
Yeah, sure.
What about the concept of discovering other people's cargo holds? You know, Corsair exploration.
That joke will never get old. Exploration ship, sure. Just put 8 guns on it though. Like, let's.
Just one last point I wanted to make. There's exploration in like finding new racing tracks, right? The Snake Pit, kind of the original one. These community-driven racetracks. They're finding locations that are just interesting to fly around and have features that make it a challenging route to run, and delivering those. And you talk about Hurston, there's like the Super Dragon Tofu Run from Anzia Racing goes through like some of the trenches in the Lorville cityscape. It's an amazing like detailed look at the city, but you're constantly trying to pull through narrow gaps in all of that that is there, and it's really fascinating to explore. So
It's
You
also
find the next
that.
spot for the Daymar rally.
That's also a good point. It's like there is soft profit from exploration. It doesn't have to always be UEC in the game. The fact that you're talking about a group that has made this racetrack gets the group's name out there more, brings more people to that group, and ultimately can help the health of that group. And that kind of thing is also good. When you have a name towards something that was made, like, players are going to be really proud of finding something for the first time and being able to say that, and hopefully get like a badge or something they can carry to show that. All right, guys. Thank you all for joining me for this show. This is a solid hour and a half of exploration. Large part speculation, but a lot of it was based on either things we know from the game, like locations, things they've told us, like deep space probing, or things we've kind of gathered as the map system has come along. A little bit of speculation there, but I appreciate the educated takes that came from all your guys' different backgrounds. So thank you again for joining me. I'm going to give you all one last time to go around, give us maybe any last thoughts you might have, but at least definitely tell people where they can find your content, your service, your org, whatever it is you want to plug. Skippy, start us off. Go ahead.
Will do. Thank you so much for having us. That was cool. Great to get to know all of you guys better. If anyone would like to get in contact with the Verse Guide crew, developers of the tool, it's verseguide.com, and you'll find a link to our Discord server, and that's the best way to just ping us and ask us or say hi.
Also, I'm going to plug LordSkippy is indeed on the leadership team in GII. Join GII, hashtag. We will do science stuff at some point. Dimmy.
That would be nice.
I thank you so much for having me on, and may the force be with all of you. Very nice to meet Eagle and Monster, and Skippy, good to see you again. For those who are listening, you may know our website already. It's the Universal Item Finder, but it's cstone.space. And I wanted to leave this message real quick. I can't think of any game that I can put on a scale with Star Citizen that's close from a science fiction point. So maybe in the future we could think about something that comes close, but so far nothing is matching. And I'm real happy to be able to share this journey with you guys.
It's a long journey.
It's a long journey, definitely.
Eagle, what about yourself?
Yeah, well, as the two others said, thank you so much for hosting us. It's been a pleasure meeting all of you guys. If you're from our org is mainly Danish, so or is Danish and exclusive Danish org. So if you're from Denmark and you want to explore with us or just want to have a lot of fun with us, then you can find us at go into the RSI organization sites and search for Stellar Eagle Alliance. Or if you are somewhat outside of Denmark and just want to know more about touring, then you can always go to theexperience.dk. At the moment, we're not flying, but we'll start up again at some point. So yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you. And Red Monster.
Yep. I'm RedMonsterSC. I do Twitch and YouTube. I do Friday nights and Sunday morning mining stream. And also, just a quick call out. Tomorrow is one of my fundraising events. We're raising funds for Games for Love, getting games and consoles to hospitalized kids. And it's a fantastic organization. I've represented a lot, so I'll be doing that tomorrow. And then every Sunday you can find me playing Star Citizen, generally doing mining, and yeah, cracking into industrial, some racing, and just dabbling on whatever I find entertaining at the time. So
Awesome, man. Well, thank you again for joining me, and all of you. Thank you. Appreciate you guys. It's been a great talk. I always enjoy having a group of diverse viewpoints on here, and exploration is one of those things that's just like, it's hard to talk about because we don't really know just how far along they are on it. And like we said during this whole thing, it kind of can feel like it's being built slowly rather than a sort of all at once thing. So appreciate you coming on and giving your thoughts on that. Thank you so much. I am going to tell everybody, folks, if you enjoyed this talk, we do this every month. Citizen Central is a monthly podcast. Citizen Central is a monthly podcast, and it generally features four esteemed guests that know what they're talking about, and we have a good time here. But if you haven't seen the launch sequence, that's our other podcast, one-on-one talks every week, and generally about Star Citizen development. Thank you once again for joining me, everybody. You can find this either on the audio platforms or on YouTube as you are. And we will see you all next month. Bye.